Soul 3, a realistic epic fantasy adventure for adults, by J.N. Wdowski. Note: for your full enjoyment, be sure to read or listen to the end and continue to the next chapter. Chapter 42. The next afternoon. Breezes gently rustled through the leaves of the early autumn trees around them. Nearing the end of the dirt road, Dale could see the opening to the farmstead clearing ahead. Pixa was flying point with Josh walking below her. Josh dropped to one knee, unslinging his urban fighter and readying it before entering the clearing. Josh raised a hand to halt the column. Dale mirrored the signal, and the men behind him, along with the wagon at the rear, all came to a quiet stop. Pixa flew back to Dale to report. Dale purposely kept his voice low. "There's a problem?" "Footprints," Pixa replied. "Hundreds of demonoid footprints." Chopson looked at the clear sky above them. "They would not be out in this sunlight." "The prints are recent," she explained. "Do you think they found the shelter?" Zoop was concerned. "I do not know yet," Pixa replied. Dale turned to the column behind him. "Guns on safety, if need be, swords only." "Swords only?" Chopson asked. "You can use your axes, of course," Dale responded. "That is not what I meant." Chopson replied, "If they found the shelter and are down there, we have the advantage with the guns." "We are here to get more ammunition, not use it," Dale answered. "The ammo we need to reserve for her. Swords and axes only." "Fine." Chopson disappointedly agreed. Dale hand signaled for half the men to ride with him. He ordered the remaining to stay with Zoop to guard the wagon. Dale kicked into his mount with Chopson riding alongside and half the column behind them. Pixa flew over his right shoulder as they reached Josh. He silently halted them. "Well?" Josh's eyes were locked in the direction of the shelter that was on the other side of the cornfield. The cornfield had been clearly pressed down as a group of demonoids recently moved through it. "You don't have to be a tracker to see where they went." Josh answered softly, not looking at Dale, as he focused on the tracks. "Sling the urban fighter," Dale told him. Josh did as Dale asked. He instead drew his two-handed Scottish claymore from his back. Two hands still free, he led them through the heavily damaged cornfield. Reaching the shelter, the branches Chopson had put over it to hide it had all been removed. The heavy stainless steel hatch was wide open. Light was emerging from the opening. Dale and the others dismounted. They drew their swords as they cautiously approached the shelter entrance. Angry voices echoed up from the bunker. Nearing the entrance, they could hear several voices cursing, "Daedruk Stiegel! Teg Su Tuo! Strat Sab!" Pixa flew near the open hatch and looked down. "They are blinded," she told Dale. "It is clear as the lights in the bunker give me energy. It blinds them. But it is written that the lights of fires do not blind them. Only the sunlight does." Josh peered down the hatch. "The light of a fire also does not affect me," Pixa pointed out. She looked down at the demonoids, blinded and struggling to find a way out. "Kkuf woi, Iriaf," one screamed up at her. Such foul language. Pixa responded, annoyed at the demons. "They must have come across the shelter last night." Josh pointed to the tracks around the hatch. "These are all fresh prints. It seems those damned souls were written to explore the bunker. They must have triggered the artificial lighting as we had." Blinded and unable to get themselves out, Chopson looked down at them far below. "The others didn't even try to help them," Dale pointed out. "No, it was night. As soon as those lights went on, those few near the top of the ladder must have scurried back up into the darkness." Looking down, Chopson saw one lying dead at the bottom of the stairs. Another sat beside him, with a broken tibia piercing through his leg. Black blood pooled around him, and the cracked head of the other. "I guess they lost their grips when the lights went on." "So what do we do with them?" Dale asked. "We need to get into the shelter." Chopson, with a battle axe already in hand, placed a foot on the first rung of the ladder to climb down. Josh placed a hand on his shoulder, stopping him. "I have 2 free hands and weapon ready. I think the great author has written for me to go first." Chopson looked to Dale, who nodded in agreement with Josh. Chopson stepped away from the hatch. Be my guest, but don't be greedy. Leave some for me. Josh smiled as he held onto the claymore with 2 hands and used his 2 free hands to descend into the buried bunker. Chopson followed close behind him. Reaching close to the bottom, Josh took his first swing of his claymore as he still hung from the ladder, instantly decapitating the closest blinded red-skinned monster, with both feet planted on the cement bunker floor. His next swing removed the head of the helpless creature with the broken leg near the ladder. Josh took time to admire his Scottish blade, dripping with black blood. The great author has written you to cut like a hot knife through fresh butter. Hearing his voice, the other 3 blinded demons zeroed in on him and charged towards him, wildly swinging their steel swords and battle axes. Unknowing to them, Chopson had landed from the ladder with both his axes at the ready. He chopped through them from an unexpected angle, easily slaying the remaining demons. Looking at the demonoid corpses at his feet, Josh replied, "Thank you, Chopson." Chopson wrinkled his nose in disgust. "Geez, they smell like they have been rotting for days." Dale followed down from the ladder. Seeing the dead creatures, he looked back up the shaft and shouted up to the men above him. "Bring the wagon, set up the tripod and the pulley. I want these bodies hosted out of here in a Barterville minute." Obeying his commands, they climbed back up the ladder to prepare everything. The tripod hoist with pulley was set up above the open hatch on the surface. The rope that was found in the time capsule was threaded through the pulley wheel and lowered to the bunker floor. 2 of the newer men tied one of the demonoid corpses to the end of the rope. Once the first body was secured, they signaled for those on the surface to start hoisting it up. Marketson approached Dale. "Major Dale, about the bodies? What do you want us to do with them?" Chopson responded. "Their heads should be placed on poles to warn off any of them from returning." Dale gave Chopson a grimaced expression. "That's kind of extreme." Pixa, who had flown down, responded, "That may warn off humans, even Neathtons. Yet, I think it would actually attract demonoids." Dale turned to Marketson, who was still waiting for orders. "Burn them. Pile them up and burn them. Save all their steel weapons. Place them in the back of the wagon. More for the Anubis to use." "Aye, Major." Marketson gave a relaxed salute and went to yell up to the men at the top of the hatch to relay Dale's orders. Dale looked up at the fluorescent ceiling lights above them. These blinded them. Dale looked at Pixa. "And they allow you to fly. Why? I do not know. Firelight does not do the same for me, and it does not blind them too." Pixa was just as confused. She looked up at the fluorescent ceiling lights above them. "These are different. They give off a brighter light than any torch, campfire, or lantern. Perhaps that is their power." "Can you open the door again?" Dale requested Pixa. "I need to look this up at the library. This could be useful against them." 2 hours later, Chopson and Josh supervised using the tripod hoist to transport all the firearms and ammo cans to the surface and loading them onto the wagon. As they did that, Dale searched the library with Pixa and Zup to find any information on the artificial lights. Dale needed to understand the positive effect the lights had on Pixa and their ability to blind the demonoids. In the science and engineering section of the library shelves, he found a book entitled Understanding Light for Physicists to Cinematographers by Yuri Kerbel. "So, did you find out why and how we can use it?" Zoop impatiently asked, thinking they should be focusing on arming all the men and getting the ammunition cans back to East Riverton. "I did. According to this book, sunlight produces a continuous spectrum. It includes all visible wavelengths smoothly, plus significant ultraviolet UV and infrared IR radiation. This broad, balanced mix of wavelengths is what makes sunlight appear white and natural to the human eye." Dale recited. "What does any of that mean?" Zup was not impressed. Dale continued to read. "Light from a flame, wood, candles, oil, etc., comes from much cooler combustion temperatures, typically 1,000 to 2,000 Kelvin. Its spectrum is not continuous in the same way. It is dominated by long wavelengths, reds and oranges, with fewer blues and virtually no UV. That's why firelight looks warm, yellow-orange, and dim compared to sunlight. How can this help us? Pixa looked over Dale's shoulder at the book she was not able to read. Fluorescent light, produced by exciting phosphors with UV radiation inside the tube. The resulting spectrum has peaks at certain wavelengths. These give off ultraviolet light unlike a fire. Using quartz or fused silica glass lets UV pass more freely. It is the ultraviolet light of the sun and the ceiling lights that are similar, Dale explained. He then opened the shelter's journal on the desk and turned to the earlier entries by Marcus Weston. On the level below us is the manufacturing workshop with industrial androids and 3D printers. 3D printers? What are 3D printers? Zup was more confused by Dale's explanation. I'm not sure, but according to Marcus, they can make the bulbs and components to make power cells, batteries for energy to make flashlights. Dale closed the journal and stood from the desk. So we can make these flashlights to strap onto the firearms. It is like us carrying little suns with us. Little suns to see in the dark? Pixa inquired. Yes, and little beams of sunlight to blind them. Dale walked out of the library to find the stairs to the lower level in the workshop. Following Dale, this could give us a major advantage. Zoop was realizing the importance of the time they spent in the library. Yes, it will, Dale confirmed with a wide grin. Please continue to Chapter 43. To support the author, please like, share, comment, and subscribe.